My friend, if I could reach into your heart right now and show you what heaven is getting ready to release over your life, you would not spend another second doubting, fearing, or questioning the plan of God. Because whether you realize it or not, something has shifted in the unseen realm. A door has opened. A path has cleared. A season has changed. And you are standing at the edge of something God prepared long before you ever prayed for it. Your new season has arrived, but to step into it, you must follow God's last instruction. There are moments in life when God speaks a word so quietly that we almost miss it. Sometimes He whispers it through Scripture. Sometimes He embeds it in a conversation. Sometimes He drops it into our spirit when we are least expecting it. But whenever God is preparing you for a new season, that instruction becomes the bridge between where you are and where He wants to take you. And the enemy's greatest strategy is not always to stop you with storms. It is to distract you from the last thing God told you to do. I once met a man who had been praying for years for direction. He kept asking for clarity, for confirmation, for a sign. But the whole time, the answer had already been given. He just didn't want that particular answer. He was waiting for something bigger, something louder, something more dramatic. Meanwhile, God was waiting for him to obey what seemed small. And the moment he finally did, everything in his life began to move. Jobs opened, relationships healed, opportunities appeared that had been locked for years, not because he prayed harder, but because he obeyed quicker. Some of you listening today have been asking God for change, but heaven is waiting for your obedience. You're praying for a new door, but God is pointing to the old instruction. You want next level blessings, but God is reminding you of last level obedience. And the truth is, your next season is never released until your last instruction is completed. When God told Noah to build the ark, He didn't give him a 100-step plan. He gave him a simple instruction: build. Noah probably didn't understand the timing, the purpose, or the scale of what God was preparing, but he obeyed the instruction he had. And that obedience didn't just save him, it carried him into an entirely new world. Some of you are one act of obedience away from stepping into something you've never seen, never imagined, never believed could happen for you. But obedience requires trust, and trust is tested most when instructions don't make sense. God might be telling you to forgive someone who hurt you deeply. God might be calling you to let go of something that feels comfortable, but is actually keeping you small. God might be telling you to stop fighting battles that aren't yours. Or He may be leading you to start something, a ministry, a business, a healing process that scares you because it feels bigger than your ability. Yet the very instruction you're afraid of may be the key that unlocks the future you've been praying for. There is a story of a woman who carried bitterness for decades. She believed she was justified. She believed she had the right to hold on to her pain. But year after year, her heart grew heavier. Her relationships grew strained. Her joy became dim. And one day, after years of struggle, God whispered one instruction: forgive. It didn't come with an explanation. It didn't come with a guarantee. It simply came as a command. She resisted it, wrestled with it, argued with it. But the day she chose obedience, peace rushed into her life like a river finally released. Her new season was waiting, blocked only by one instruction she had been avoiding. Sometimes the hardest instruction is the one that leads to the greatest freedom. You see, God doesn't give instructions to burden you. He gives them to prepare you. He knows what's ahead. He knows who will come, what will leave, and what will be needed for the place He is taking you. He knows which doors you can walk through now, and which ones would crush you if you entered prematurely. And when God tells you to move, to stop, to release, to surrender, to speak, to stay silent, whatever it may be, it's because that instruction is positioning you for your new season. There are some listening right now who feel stuck, not because God has forgotten you, but because He is waiting for you to take the step He assigned before the breakthrough. Heaven is not holding back your blessing. Obedience is unlocking it. What God promised you is already prepared. What you prayed for is already in motion. What you've been waiting for is already written into your destiny. But the key to stepping into it is wrapped inside the instruction God already gave. Think back for a moment. What was the last thing God whispered to your heart? Was it to forgive, to apologize, to let go, to trust Him deeper, to step out in faith, to stop returning to the place that keeps wounding you, to start something He planted inside you years ago? Whatever it was, that instruction is the doorway to your new season. And here's the beautiful truth. God never asks you to take a step without walking beside you. He never gives you an instruction and then leaves you to figure it out alone. When He said to Peter, "Come," Peter walked on water, not because he was strong, but because he obeyed the voice that called him forward. Your miracle begins the moment your obedience begins. Waves may rise, winds may howl, doubts may roar, but when God calls you into a new season, obedience is your anchor, your courage, your compass. Right now, heaven is announcing change over your life. Your new season has already arrived. The shift has happened. The atmosphere around you is different, but you cannot walk into a new season with an old obedience. Something must be completed. Something must be surrendered. Something must be acted upon. Something must be trusted. Take one moment and open your heart. Ask yourself, what was the last thing God told me to do? Don't complicate it. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for a louder voice. The instruction you've been overlooking may be the miracle you've been seeking. If you will follow God's last instruction, no matter how small, how simple, or how challenging, it will unlock a season you didn't even know was possible. A season of clarity, a season of restoration, a season of answered prayers, a season of new beginnings. Your new season has arrived. Step into it with obedience. Step into it with faith. Step into it with courage. And watch God do what only God can do. Your new season has arrived. But stepping into it requires following God's last instruction. My friend, you may not fully realize it, but God has been working behind the scenes, orchestrating events, opening doors, and preparing your heart for what is coming. Sometimes we look at our lives and think nothing is changing, that everything is stagnant, that our prayers are unanswered. But the truth is, the shift has already begun. The heavens are moving in your favor, and what God has promised is already on its way. The question is, are you ready to step in? Are you willing to obey the instruction He has given you, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it seems small, even when it challenges everything you thought you knew about yourself and your circumstances? That instruction is the bridge between your present reality and the future God has prepared for you. It is the key that unlocks the door to your new season. Many of us are waiting for big signs, dramatic confirmations, or perfect timing, but God often works in the quiet moments through small acts of obedience that we overlook. Perhaps He has been telling you to forgive someone, to release bitterness, to trust Him with your finances, to step out in faith, or to let go of a dream that is no longer for you. These instructions may seem simple or even inconvenient, but they are the very things that position you for the breakthrough you have been longing for. Your new season cannot begin while there is unfinished obedience in your life. Just as a seed cannot grow in soil that has not been prepared, your blessings cannot flourish until you have acted on what God has already spoken. Consider the power of one simple act of obedience. Noah was instructed to build an ark. To the world around him, it made no sense. There was no flood in sight, no signs of disaster, no understanding of what God was doing. Yet he obeyed. He followed the last instruction given to him, And through that obedience, not only was he saved, but he also entered into a new season that changed history forever. Your obedience may not make sense to those around you, and it may even test your faith, but it is the very thing that positions you to step into what God has prepared. Some of you have been waiting for years, wondering why your life has not changed, why doors remain closed, why your prayers feel delayed. The answer may not be found in more effort or louder prayers, but in the obedience you have been postponing. God's instructions are never arbitrary. They are intentional, precise, and tailored to your life. They are designed to release favor, bring alignment, and open the pathway to the blessings He has already stored for you. You must recognize the importance of following God's last instruction, no matter how small it may seem. It may feel uncomfortable. It may require courage. It may challenge your understanding, but it is the very act that signals to heaven that you are ready. It is the step that transforms waiting into movement, doubt into faith, and prayer into manifestation. Obedience is the threshold to your new season, and your willingness to follow the instruction God has given will determine the speed and fullness with which you enter into what He has prepared. Obedience, not just prayer or desire, unlocks the blessings God has prepared for you. Many of us spend years praying, hoping, and wishing for change, yet we remain in the same place. We cry out for breakthrough, for favor, for restoration, but often the missing element is not more effort, more tears, or more faith. It is obedience. Obedience is not just following rules or checking off a list. It is the deliberate alignment of your actions with the voice of God. It is moving when He says move, pausing when He says wait, releasing when He says release, and holding firm when He says stand. Obedience demonstrates trust, reveals your faith, and positions you to receive the very blessings you have been asking for. Without it, your prayers can remain unanswered, your dreams delayed, and your new season out of reach. There is a story of a man who prayed for years for financial breakthrough. He studied the Word, he prayed diligently, he sought guidance from mentors, yet nothing seemed to change. He continued to ask God for favor, but the breakthrough never came. Then one day, God reminded him of the last instruction He had given, a simple step of obedience he had neglected. It was not complicated, it was not dramatic, but it required him to act. He hesitated at first, afraid of failing or being misunderstood, but eventually he chose obedience. Within weeks, doors opened that he had been praying for years to see. Opportunities that seemed impossible materialized. The blessings he longed for finally found their way into his life, not because he prayed harder, but because he obeyed faster. Obedience unlocked what prayer alone could not. Many people think that faith is enough, that believing strongly will automatically produce results, but faith without obedience is incomplete. James reminds us that faith must be accompanied by action, it must produce works, and it must be lived out in the daily steps God calls us to take. If you are waiting for your miracle while ignoring the instructions God has already given, you are delaying your own blessing. God's timing and His instructions are inseparable. When He gives an instruction, it is not random. It is the key to opening the next chapter of your life. To ignore it is to remain in a place of waiting while heaven is ready to move on your behalf. Obedience also cultivates trust and shapes your character. It teaches patience, humility, and dependence on God. It refines your heart and aligns your will with His. When you obey, even when it is difficult or uncomfortable, you are not only opening the door to your blessing, but you are also preparing yourself to handle the responsibility and magnitude of what God is about to release. God does not give His greatest gifts to those who are unwilling to act on the smallest instructions. He gives them to those who respond faithfully, consistently, and courageously. You may feel overwhelmed, unsure, or inadequate, but remember this: every act of obedience, no matter how small, positions you for the extraordinary. Every step taken in alignment with God's word carries a weight of authority that can shift circumstances, open doors, and release favor. Your desire for change is real. Your prayers are sincere, but it is your obedience that will transform them into reality. Obedience is not optional, it is essential. It is the threshold that separates waiting from breakthrough, frustration from fulfillment, and old seasons from new ones. God's instructions often require trust, especially when they don't make immediate sense. There are moments in life when we hear God's voice or feel His leading, but the path He asks us to take seems uncertain, unclear, or even impossible. The instruction may challenge our understanding, stretch our faith, or push us beyond our comfort zone. And yet, it is precisely in those moments of uncertainty that trust becomes our most powerful tool. Trust is what allows us to obey even when the outcome is unseen. Trust is what enables us to take the first step, knowing that God is already preparing the road ahead. Without trust, instructions remain unfulfilled, blessings remain locked, and seasons remain stalled. Consider the story of Abraham. God instructed him to leave his familiar home, to journey to a land he had never seen, promising that he would become the father of a great nation. To the human eye, it made no sense. There were no guarantees, no clear roadmaps, no immediate evidence that the promise would be fulfilled. Yet Abraham obeyed, and through his trust in God's instruction, he stepped into a destiny far greater than he could have imagined. In the same way, God often calls us to trust Him with things that seem unclear or risky. He asks us to let go of what is comfortable or familiar, to step into the unknown, and to believe that His plans are higher, greater, and better than anything we could envision on our own. Many of us struggle because we want to understand everything before we act. We want certainty, clarity, and control before we follow an instruction. But God rarely works that way. His instructions are often designed to test our trust, to refine our faith, and to prepare us for the miracles He has in store. When He tells you to act, even if it seems confusing or intimidating, it is an opportunity to demonstrate that your faith is genuine, that your heart is surrendered, and that your eyes are fixed on Him rather than the circumstances around you. Trust is the bridge that connects obedience to outcome, and without it, the instruction remains incomplete and the promise delayed. There are times when trust may be tested through delays, setbacks, or opposition. You may obey, but the results may not be immediate. You may take a step of faith, but the door does not open right away. These moments are not signs of failure. They are opportunities to deepen your trust, to rely on God's timing, and to strengthen your spiritual resilience. Every test, every waiting period, every obstacle is preparing you for the fullness of the season that awaits. Trust ensures that you remain steadfast, patient, and faithful, even when the path seems unclear. Your new season cannot be entered without trust. God is calling you to take steps you have not taken before, to speak words you have not spoken before, to release burdens you have not released before, and to embrace promises you have not embraced before. It is not the magnitude of your understanding, intelligence, or resources that moves the mountain. It is your willingness to trust and obey God's instruction. When you trust, you align yourself with His power, His timing, and His purpose, allowing Him to work through you and for you in ways that surpass human comprehension. Right now, God may be asking you to step into something that seems uncertain, uncomfortable, or even impossible. That instruction, though it may not make sense today, is the key to unlocking your breakthrough. Trust is the vehicle that carries you across the threshold from hesitation into your new season, from fear into faith, and from waiting into manifestation. The instruction may be simple, but it requires complete reliance on God's wisdom, guidance, and promises. Trust is not optional. It is essential for every step, every obedience, and every miracle that awaits. As we come to the close of this message, I want you to hear this with clarity and conviction. Your new season has arrived. The heavens are shifting, the doors are opening, and God's hand is moving in your life in ways you cannot yet fully see. But stepping into that season requires more than hope, more than prayer, more than desire. It requires obedience. It requires that you follow the last instruction God has given you. That instruction may seem small. It may seem inconvenient. It may even challenge everything you thought you knew about your life and your future. But it is the key. It is the threshold between waiting and breakthrough, between disappointment and destiny, between limitation and abundance. God's instructions are never random. They are never without purpose. Every step He calls you to take, every act of obedience He places before you is a part of the plan He has designed specifically for you. It is a step that positions you for the blessings He has prepared, the doors He has opened, and the opportunities He has aligned in your favor. And yet, many people remain stuck because they hesitate, they delay, or they question. They pray for change, but they resist the instruction that would bring it. They long for breakthrough, but they ignore the very step that unlocks it. My friend, you cannot bypass obedience. You cannot substitute prayer, fasting, or desire for the act of following God's voice. Obedience is the bridge. Obedience is the spark. Obedience is the signal to heaven that you are ready. Think for a moment about your own life. What is the last thing God spoke to your heart? What is the instruction you have been ignoring, resisting, or postponing? It may be to forgive someone who hurt you deeply. It may be to step out in faith despite your fear. It may be to release a burden you have carried for too long. It may be to speak a word, take a step, or simply trust Him with something you cannot control. Whatever it is, that instruction is the key to the season waiting for you. That act of obedience will release the favor, the blessings, the opportunities, and the miracles God has already prepared. I want you to understand something profoundly important. God does not ask you to obey Him alone. He walks with you every step of the way. He strengthens your faith, guides your decisions, and equips you with courage. Obedience does not mean ease. It does not mean absence of fear or uncertainty. But it does mean that you are aligning your life with the power and purpose of God. And when you do, your breakthrough is inevitable. Your life will begin to shift. Your prayers will begin to manifest. Your doors will open. Your season will change. So hear the call today. Take the step you have been avoiding. Act on the instruction God has given you. Trust Him fully. Step out in faith. Release what must be released. Forgive what must be forgiven. Begin what must be begun. Obedience is the key that unlocks your new season, the spark that ignites your destiny, and the pathway to the abundant life God has prepared for you. Your season is here. The door is open. Step through it with faith, courage, and unwavering obedience, and watch God do what only He can do.